29 Palestinians, including 5 children, have been killed by Israeli forces this year, more than 1 per day on average. 9, including an elderly woman, were killed on Thursday. Now, this was during an early morning raid by the Israeli Defense Forces in the occupied West Bank city of Jenin. Now, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that he will travel to Israel and the West Bank next week. He is urging an end to the violence. 2022 was the deadliest year for Palestinians since 2006. Over 200 Palestinians were killed last year. 2023 may surpass that count if the present death rate continues. So the question is, what has led to the recent escalation of violence and tensions? Israel has been conducting regular raids in the occupied West Bank since March last year. These started under the former Prime Minister Yair Lapid. The raids are focused on capturing or killing militants from various armed groups. These groups, and therefore the raids, are focused around the occupied West Bank cities of Jenin and Nablus. Now, the Israeli campaign has been dubbed Break the Wave. While the Israeli military campaign has been ongoing for almost a year now, the recent rise in tensions has to do with Israel's new government. Israel elected its most right-wing government last November. It brought former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu back into power, and it also elevated members of his right-wing coalition to senior government positions. This includes the controversial Itamar Ben-Gvir, who is now Israel's national security minister. Ben-Gvir has a long history of anti-Palestinian conduct. He has been convicted of incitement to racism, destroying property, and supporting a terror group. He was also known for displaying the picture of an American-Israeli mass murderer, Baruch Goldstein, on his wall. The man massacred 29 Palestinian worshippers at a mosque in Hebron in 1994. And Ben-Gvir used to display this man's photograph. He has also called for the displacement of Palestinians. Now, on the 3rd of January, Ben-Gvir entered the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound with a heavy guard detail. It was in the early hours of the day, and his visit was seen as a provocation by Palestinians and neighboring Arab nations. All Muslim and Christian holy sites in Israel and Palestine are overseen by Jordan under the 1926 agreement. Jewish people are not allowed to pray at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, which contains the Dome of the Rock and is considered Islam's 3rd holiest site. Many rabbis, too, forbid Jewish prayers at the compound, which is also considered the site of 2 Jewish temples from antiquity. Ben-Gvir's visit was followed by the Jordanian ambassador being stopped at the compound. Amman summoned Israel's ambassador in Jordan over the incident. This Tuesday, Netanyahu made his first foreign trip to Jordan to meet King Abdullah. In a statement released by Jordan, said the king stressed the need to respect the status quo at Al-Aqsa. He also stressed the need to maintain calm and cease all acts of violence. However, in what could be problematic to Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir has vowed to continue going to the compound, saying he does not follow Jordanian policy. So where do the Palestinians go from here? The provocations from Ben-Gvir and the regular raids have increased the support for the hardline groups such as Hamas. Hamas already governs the Gaza Strip, but the occupied West Bank is governed by Fatah. Now, the Palestinian Authority's president is Mahmoud Abbas. What happens if Hamas's popularity continues to increase? Can they challenge Fatah in the West Bank as well? Will Israel allow them to? Now, for more on this, we have with us Avi Meir from Jerusalem. He is a political commentator and an expert on Israeli foreign affairs. Now, Avi, thank you very much for being with us. What, in your view, has led to these recent tensions in the occupied West Bank?
Well, I have to say, I take issue with a lot of the framing with which you introduced this segment. The notion that these raids happen because, well, it's not entirely clear why, is quite curious. In point of fact, today's raid took place in result of a direct intelligence information that the Israeli military received that this group was planning a terrorist attack in a major Israeli population center. It went in to apprehend the suspects who were involved in those preparations, and those suspects, rather than surrendering, opened fire and were killed in in that response. So it's quite curious, I think, to sort of frame it in a way that disconnects the events of today from the broader context, which of course is that of groups like Hamas and Islamic Jihad, which of course is the group that was involved in today's incident, where they are simply tasked with destroying Israel and killing as many Jews as they possibly can. Israel, as any country, including India and any other around the world, has the sovereign right and responsibility to defend itself and its citizens, and that's what Israel was doing today.
Right, and I mean, what is the Israeli raid campaign that has been dubbed Break the Wave?
Well, again, this is, I think it's important to note, the notion that somehow the tension started with the current government is simply preposterous. There have been attempts to murder Israelis and Jews, not only since Israel's establishment, but since way before. It went way before Israel was even a country, certainly before the 1967 war in which Israel took control of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip in East Jerusalem. And this has been an ongoing effort. And it doesn't matter which government is in power. This has been true whether there were left-leaning governments, as the previous government was, or right-leaning governments, as the current one is. This is not something that is in any way new. And of course, the Israel Defense Forces and other Israeli security forces are tasked with keeping Israeli civilians and the Israeli people safe. That is what this campaign is about. And that is also what today's operation was about, trying to ensure that those who seek to do Israel harm are not able to do so.
Right. What have some of the international reactions been to the current situation?
Well, as you heard, the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu met yesterday with King Abdullah of Jordan. They discussed the current situation. They discussed ways of lowering tensions and ensuring that there is as much calm as there possibly can be, while, of course, ensuring equal access to holy sites. It's important to note that what Minister Ben-Gvir did may have been provocative, but it was not actually a violation of the status quo between Israel and Jordan. Jews are permitted to visit the Temple Mount, which is, of course, the holiest site in Judaism. They are, as you noted, not permitted to pray there. And Ben-Gvir, in fact, did not pray there. And the question is whether he will continue to visit, which, again, would be consistent with the understandings with Jordan, even if they would be viewed provocatively. We certainly hope that this will not have an adverse effect on Israel's international affairs. Israel, as you know, in recent years has developed growing ties with several Arab countries. Those, I believe, will endure regardless of what happens on the ground. It is in both the best interest of all parties involved, all the Arab countries involved, and certainly of Israel, to ensure that those relations remain robust and that those ties continue to grow. I believe that will continue to be the case.
Right. I mean, thank you very much for being with us on this broadcast and all your valuable insights there.
Thank you.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.